Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Hey, everybody, welcome. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are having a meeting today. We're having a meeting. It's a meeting with Gretta, Leigh, and Yvonne. The realm of beings are also going to join us. For those of you that already know who these amazing people are, then you already know that they have a fabulous hit show. And we are talking about that conversation and that show, but we're also talking about what the message is for the world we live in today. What I love about this is for you all to get to know them again, as you've done, Dr. Gretta Chamberlain, of course, Yvonne Kraeher, of course. We're talking about people that, you know, for Gretta, it's, what do you think about remote energy transformation specialist? What do you think about that? How about her being an educator? How about her being someone who channels the non-physical entities known as the realm of beings? They may be here today. I don't know. We have to see. But then being joined by two other amazing people, you know, an artist, a visionary, Yvonne, a spiritual wisdom keeper. You know, this is what we're talking about, raising the bar, high energetic frequencies, all of the above, getting this in place at a young age. And then there's Leigh Stima. We're talking about Leigh, who I have to explain, I have to say this. When I first met Leigh and I saw her taking the helm in their show and being so open and willing to do it, of course, her intuition, she's a guide. But when I see the evolution of both Leigh and everybody else in the show, you now have a great show. You now have three people that when they show up, when they come to the stage to do their show, I just want you all to know this, when they show up to do that show, and you're going to find out when that show is, magic happens. If you happen to be one of the lucky people that's going to get to have a conversation with the realm, fasten your seatbelts. Because I know, like, when I watch the show and I watch Gretta and then I watch Yvonne, I watch Leigh, and everybody's like, wow, what did the realm just say? And we have got a lot to talk about today. I want to welcome you all to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Now, look, today's show, a meeting with you all, conversations about the creation of reality, it is really an important conversation. I mean, it's important in so many ways. And, you know, part of what I want to start out with is how wonderfully this movement has grown. I call it a movement because the idea of understanding reality, who creates it, how it gets created, was not even a thing when I started doing the show 20 years ago. It was kind of out there, like for a few people that had it. I don't know, like who, like maybe the Dalai Lama or somebody, I don't know. But now the conversations about this have gotten greater, spill over to the mainstream, spill over to the pop culture, but yet we still don't understand the power of it. And so let's have a conversation. And I'm going to start with you, Gretta, if I can.
Yes.
And then I just want to go around to everybody because I like this. What is your experience, the ups, the downs, the sideways, the topsy-turvy, the straight line and the roller coaster about discovering the reality of what we are. What did you all discover about that for yourselves? That idea, reality. What are you? Greta, what has this been like for you?
The first time I came upon it or created for it to come to me, I didn't believe it. There was no way that I was going to believe that some of the stuff that I had experienced in my life, that I created it. There was no way.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the very first time at the gathering.
There we go. And I told my teacher, my mentor, I said, I said, you have got to be kidding. There is no way. You're not going to tell me that, you know. And not only that, but that I created my reality. At that time, it was just at the time of me being born, I started to create the reality. And I think we'll get to it as we go through the program. But then we talk about the creation of reality before you are born. Mm. Yeah. But that's what it was for me, because I've had a lot of experiences that people would find very challenging that occurred in my life. And I chose to come into this experience, into this reality, being cared for by a single mother who had challenges herself. So I grew up being taught that I was no good, because she would always say that to me, "You're no good, Greta." So that started my journey of practicing not being good. And then when you're practicing not being good, you're practicing not loving yourself. When you're not practicing loving yourself, then you're not practicing nor recognizing the divinity that you are.
Wow. And, you know, I love that you shared that, because, you know, we are really tapping into the fact that there are many, many people that have had experiences growing up, but they don't have a solution. See, that's why I love what you all do, is because you provide answers to people that don't even understand the question. And that's why I love talking about reality, because one of the things we all know is reality is so impersonal, and we're going to talk about that. I want to hop over to Leigh. Can I hop over to you, Leigh?
Sure. I mean, creating your own reality. What? So, I mean, it's a journey, of course. You know, I think there's something, you know, with everything we learn, right? We have to be in an open place. We have to be in a place where our cells and we are physically able to accept another kind of information that, I mean, we are creating for ourselves. So if you're in this sort of, this group of consciousness where you're learning about these ideas and tools, know that you're creating that awareness for yourself, for your own understanding. And you create that when you're ready to hear it and when you're ready to listen, or maybe you create it when you're not exactly ready to hear it at that moment. But we have to all start somewhere, right? So we have to challenge our beliefs, right? If that is about us, our growth. And as Greta says, we are the force. And that's a big thing to take in also, because we've been, told we're small for so long, or so we have to start. And if you're hearing this, you're ready to embody what we're trying to share. And I mean, I am always a student. I'm always trying to learn, because being in some other kind of belief system for so many decades, it's a transition. So take your time with it and be kind with yourself. So that's sort of where I am. And, Greta shared her mother saying she's no good. I was told not to cry, that crying wasn't okay. So in my early upbringing, I guess that kind of led to me negating my emotions and not feeling allowed to speak my truth. So maybe that's all what we're trying to get back to a little bit, is finding what our own inherent truth is and remembering who we are as best we can for what we're ready for.
I love this. We're going to have so much fun today. Thank you for sharing that. Because the three of you, when I first met you and you came together, each of you had special and unique gifts. And I've watched the evolution of this in the show. And I've watched the evolution of each of you individually, but together, how powerfully. Yvonne, for you, right? I mean, the reality that you're sitting here doing the show and we're talking about the show you three do, that's a reality in itself, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. The name of our podcast is Shifting Impressions. And boy, oh boy, did I make a shift. I think we all did, and continually make a shift. But yeah, it's not easy doing that inner work. I think what we teach is just facing some of these challenges and accepting them and taking responsibility for them, however they are in your life, and knowing that you can empower yourself. You are empowered already to change, to shift. If you don't like something, just change it. I mean, it sounds so simple. It is not that simple to do the work, but it is definitely possible because your thoughts drive everything. And if you can change your thoughts and change the emotions behind those thoughts that give the thoughts energy, your whole reality is going to shift and change for the better. So yeah, my backstory is probably not too different than anybody else's. I was dropped, well, it could be a little different. I was dropped off at the convent at 5, and because I wouldn't talk, like it was back in the 60s. And like, that was, I guess, what they did when you had a child that was emotionally little, like on whatever was going on. I don't know. But yeah, that reality exists. They all, every reality kind of exists all at the same time. And like, that's still a part of me. So, I don't dwell on it anymore, but it did drive a lot of unnecessary kind of challenges and suffering, but we're all here now, and that's what matters, right? Going through it, and changing and shifting.
Not only are we here now, we're here in big time. So let me just plant the seed for what we're about to talk about next. And Benny, we're going to go ahead and skip the break. So for 20 years, I've been talking about things that people were thinking about. Okay, she's lost her mind. That's okay. If you think I'm from another planet, that's okay today for that to happen. I think the four of us sitting here, probably people have some sort of sense of that. But we've learned a lot, and we learned it through your teaching. The fact that you do I remember do you all remember when we first met and it was Gretta? Do you remember Gretta? When I said to Gretta, oh, it's not just a podcast, it's video. Do you all remember that? I think I lost Leigh. Leigh was gone. I think Leigh didn't even show up for the next meeting or something. But that was a new reality.
Yeah.
And yet that was a perfect reality for what you wanted to create. You see, this is what I kind of want to talk about with you all is we create these thoughts of what we want in the world and what the vision is. And let me ask you, I'm going to hop back to Gretta, and I love all of you talk about this, but let's talk about reality in the making, how we create them, how it comes to be. Because this idea of reality being impersonal, I learned that the hard way. I don't know how you all learned it, but I learned that if I have a reality that is so far away from what I really desire, and I'm holding on to, who said it? Belief system. I'm holding on to a vision of it. I'm thinking I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm blah, 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 blah. I get more of that. And this is what we're talking about. But you know what I love, Gretta, about what you do with the realm? You see, 20 years ago, I made a prediction. I can't remember the show. The show wasn't even the Dr. Pat show. And I said something like, just give this time and you will see our pop culture change massively. And it'll be in the theater and in the movies. And it will bring in and remind us of origins that are so embedded in our DNA. Hence, everybody talking about the multiverse, but Greta, you live it, don't you?
Yes, I do.
It is so prominent, but I love it because let me ask you this question. How do we create our realities? You see, I'm thinking about television series, everything on Netflix, blockbuster movies. You know, we're going to the movies now. Once upon a time, like Yvonne, I'm with you about I got to Catholic boarding school when I was age 5, but I got kicked out, right? That was just not going to work for them. But you see, we create this. I want to ask you this, Greta, because we create it as individuals, but then also doesn't that individual momentum, energy affect a bigger picture, a more global version of humanity?
Definitely, because we have to go back. We deal with the unconscious, and you're going to see me use the pronoun and hear me use the pronoun we, because I'm so connected to them now. And I know they're speaking through me all the time, you know. So it's regardless if I'm stepping back and they're speaking through my physical vehicle, but they're still speaking. So we have to go back to the force. And what we're teaching is that the force is the energy that has created everything in existence. Because different species, they create the reality of their own quote unquote God, however they define it for their universe, something that is outside of them. Like Leigh and I were talking today about part. We're a part of the force. And I was saying to her, no, we're not. We're not a part of the force. Now, this is the part that Yvonne was talking about, and you're saying, you know, people are going to say, well, what the heck, you know, because we're looking at everybody as the force. You're the force to me. You're not part of the force. You're it. And so the realities that we create, you know, they call it experiential evolution. So the force is experiencing itself. I asked somebody once, I said, what's the energy? You know, they do Reiki, they do all this energy work. I said, what's the energy you use? What is it? Everybody sat there and just looked at me. Because, you know, they're using energy and they don't understand what energy they're using. See? But they're using the energy of the force. The force is lending itself for it to experience itself through us, and we are it. You see, we're not separate. So then we come into the lessons. The force wants to experience experiential evolution, as I just said. So their lessons are there. In some books, people write, it says, well, you choose your lessons. But they're meaning that me as Greta's choosing her own lesson. Dr. Pat is choosing her lesson. But in actuality, it's the force that chose the lessons. And we're in it as the force, you see. So consequently, it's right there. So we're committed. We decide to go from an energy essence and then move into the incarnate stage. And at the incarnate stage is where we put together all of these realities. See, we start creation of reality prior to going into the womb. Going into somebody's womb is just part of our creation of reality. Our creation of reality starts before that. Some people recognize it because they remember what it was like when they were in that incarnate stage and they were choosing their parents, choosing what they wanted to look like, choosing their personalities. This is all part of creation of reality. Everything about me, from my eyeglasses to the scarf around my neck, is my creation of reality. Yeah. Everything that's behind me that people are seeing who are watching this live, that's my creation of reality. And I think we'll get into that a little bit later.
We're going to get into it because, you know, what you're opening up the door, and I want to just hop back over to you, Yvonne. I'm going to hop to you now next, is that there is this sense from time to time in our human experience as we move forward that all is wrong, all is despair. I have no choices. I can't do it. And yet, if you're fortunate enough to get a little insight on some of what you're talking about, on the force and the energy and the dynamics and what we're bringing forward, you know, I mean, there's a reason that we created something called deja vu outside of the movie The Matrix. There's a reason that there is a deja vu moment. I don't know many people that don't understand what that is. You're walking in a hallway and you're like, oh my God, I've been here before. No, you haven't been there before, but you have been there before. Right? You're right. You walk into an office building, which you've never been before. And you know what that deja vu feeling's like? Does everybody, do y'all know what I'm talking about? That feeling when it just gets in you, it's like in you. And you're like, I've been here. No, I've never been in that building in Pittsburgh before, but I have. Right? Yeah. So I want to kick it to you, Yvonne, because, and please, let's take a moment to let people know how they can find out about your podcast. Tell them when it's on, because this is just a little taste, and then we'll go over to Leigh.
Yeah, well, our podcast, once again, is called Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings, and we are live on Transformation Talk Radio every Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. And we have a show that we pick apart, quotes that have been downloaded through Gretta from the Realm of Beings. And every week, it's an adventure. We talk about the quotes and just kind of teach about them. And then the last part of the podcast, we're fortunate enough to have the realm join us to weigh in on what the quotes are. But just to comment back on your deja vu experience, we all, I mean, I think the more aware we become, the more, it seems like the more of these experiences we do have. And it's really, I kind of like describe it as being in the flow, being fully present, being conscious of where you are, so that those realities that are existing at all times in all places, and it's not just like the past was the past, present is now, the future is out there. Everything is simultaneous. So like, that's why you kind of quickly remember that experience wherever it was in Pittsburgh, but your body is physically in Seattle or in Philadelphia or wherever. But it's we just have to remember that we're all energy. That's what we are at all times. And energy is everywhere. So like, we're not just body here or a body over there. So that's my little weigh in on that.
Oh boy, well, this is going to get so good. We're warming up now. Is this show an hour, Benny, or two? Leigh, let me go back to you. Creating reality. So you all came together and you created the reality of this program, right? You created your show. Then you modified it. Then you grew with it. Then it evolved. Then it exponentially through, I love the whole quote thing from the realm. I mean, I go back and I watch these shows and I'm just like, I know there's a lesson. This is me now. This is like, now you all got to school me on whether I'm creating a false reality or a real one. But Leigh, kick in here, because there are messages we are meant to hear in this world today. You created this. Every one of you said yes to this. Not really knowing what the yes looks like. Is it like vanilla ice cream? Is it strawberry? What is it? But you knew it was right, Leigh. You knew it was right, even if it was uncomfortable. what were some of the influences that either guided you, directed you to the creation of your reality in the world for yourself today?
Maybe, especially as you mentioned earlier, the idea of a podcast was something of an idea out there that Greta had.
I think I waited to even tell you it was video. I think I held back a little bit, maybe, I think
Right.
on that, right.
So that was something. So Greta planted a seed and I said, oh, sure. And then when you were talking about, oh, it was video, oh, okay. And then the next part that happened was, oh, we're on AM radio. So live. There's actually people driving in their car listening to the oh, come on. So many of these things, I would have to say, were an unconscious creation. There was something in my unconscious creating that. In my conscious thoughts, I was thinking that I needed to push myself out of my comfort zone. And this new experience, this new creation was a way for me to do that and try something that I perhaps was not ready for consciously, but I knew that I had to push through that fear and just do it.
Yeah. We're going to take a break. We're going to get back to this. And I think I may even start with you, Leigh, when we come back, because I love these conversations, but there is a reality to the word we're speaking today. And it affects all of us and affects the people listening. For those of you out there, I don't know if the realm is going to join us today, but I will tell you, if you have got a question for these three amazing women, this is the time for you to give us a shout. 1-800-930-2819. Here's the question for you when you're thinking about calling in. Are you creating the reality you want, or do you think you're creating a reality you don't want? We're going to give you some guidance on that. What if I were to say to you, whatever your reality is, it at some point was a reality you wanted? Really? I did want that. I wanted that bankruptcy. Oh, I wanted that narcissistic relationship. Oh, did I really want that? Now, when we come back, I'm going to get schooled by all three of these amazing women. Benny, let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's so great to tune us in and turn us on. You know, I love it. I want to just get back to some information. Greta, let me go to you if we can. And I want to make sure you all understand, go to Transformation Talk Radio every Friday at 8 a.m. Go to facebook.com, Transformation Talk Radio. You're going to see them. For those of you that get the show in Australia, because we send this over there, okay, you know what we're talking about. But the point is this, you know, please check this out, because every show, there is something, whether it's a quote or a conversation, that will bring you to a sense, a new reality for you to contemplate. But Greta, what is the best way for people to find out about you? I think there's a website you have, right?
Right. We call it Greta's House. There's some videos on it that I made a while back, not too far back. I think they're good. They're videos that are good for people that are just beginning to touch this concept, because it will go back and review some of the early things, like thoughts are things that, so I think that would be good for people to begin, but it's grettashouse.com.
They're fantastic. I mean, there's the one there that I think I popped in recently, where you do a thing on how to create your own reality. Right. I love the forum deal that you set up there. So, you know, this is just one other way that people that are listening to this can tune in. I mean, if you go look at some of these videos, you're going to get a conversation about reality, law of attraction, everything's energy, and don't forget to watch the one on the force. Don't forget to take a look at some of these. But it all ties into what we're talking about today. And I want to get back to this, because during the break, I made a comment. I don't know how true the comment is, but my sense is that there are people that have exponentially grown, like shot out of a cannon after COVID. Like they're shot. They may not have a direction. They don't know where they're going to land, but there's something that changed. How do we know this? We've created a thing called the Great Resignation. Okay, what does that even mean? It means people are resigning from work and they're not going to their jobs. I call it the Great Resurrection because I think people are like, oh, wait a minute. That thing that I was living called life, that is not for me. So I want to ask you this question. Are these people changing the reality? Are they beginning to get it? And changing the reality for a lot of people, Gretta, is, oh, I can't do that. Dr. Gretta, tell us about change your reality. Where does it get us? Where do we go? And do we need a seatbelt?
Sometimes you do need a seatbelt. Sometimes you need about 5 seatbelts to create. I think the first thing is to make some decisions about what you want to do with your life. You know, in reference to what you just said. What do I want to do with my life? People always are asking me, Gretta, what is my purpose? I want to find my purpose. I tell them, I said, your purpose is not to be a teacher. It's not to be the president. It's not to be a billionaire. The first thing is to love self. And that may seem so simplistic, but that is so meaningful. Because when you love yourself, see, your creations of reality are going to come to you that support you and loving you. Because if you're in a situation that that can be very abusive, that means, but you don't want to be there, start focusing, I love myself. Even if that's the only thing you say, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. And you're going to see that things are going to change. Because the people, see, it's create, support, support, create. That concept is very simplistic, and it's throughout the universe, and it is throughout existence. Because I've had to deal with other species, and they go through the same thing. Create, support, support, create. Like I know one in particular, I said, why are you creating this for yourself? And had to go in to examine that. And he's not even humanoid, but he's going through the same thing. That's why I know the whole existence, because they're over 500 universes. The universes go into infinity. Infinity is so huge, you can't even see the end of it. See, so we're a very small microcosm of it. But the thing is that for us to understand that anything that you don't want, you can change it. How do you change it? The basis is going to be love yourself. Well, how do I do that? I tell people, go do something. Like we have an exercise that we give people. Do something that shows that you love yourself every day.
Yeah.
What do you do today? What am I going to do the next day? What am I going to do on Wednesday? Maybe it's just to go get a massage. Maybe it's just to walk near the beach. Doesn't have to cost you any money. Do something that shows that you love you. Now that's the beginning of the change.
I love you said that. Okay, we're going to go to Yvonne because I want to talk about how do you change the reality you don't want. Now look, can I give you a pop culture reference? Would it be too over the top if I did it?
Sure.
A real reference to what Dr. Gretta, you just said. There's a real live reference. She's called Rihanna. Rihanna is known as a pop singer. This is a woman that if you followed her early years, loving herself was not going to be what showed up. Everything from the choices she made, the romantic choices she made. So here's my point to your point, which is very practical and definitely not from the realm. When you watch her, and it's been such an honor to watch her grow and evolve and get to the place where you could see she went from, I don't love myself to I'm getting to love myself. And when she did that, her life's trajectory changed and her net worth went from, I am just a pop star. And now today, I am the owner of Fenty, and I'm worth 1.4 billion. And I do not think she would have got there if she didn't make that transition. But that's just my little practical example. We all have that in us, Yvonne, don't we? We all have
Absolutely.
the ability in us to walk out of relationships where people are beating us, love ourselves enough to do that, and then create what we want. Go ahead, Yvonne.
Well, it's in our DNA. It's a seed. Our genius is, our creativity is in us. It's in all of us. And all we have to do is nurture it and give ourselves the love that we deserve. And I like to use the garden. I'm a big gardener, and I watch from the very beginning of the season, planting one little seed, which, a tomato seed, it turns into a plant, which turns into massive amounts of fruit. And then each fruit contains, a gazillion millions of seeds. So just the same thing, like within us, it's just that one little seed that can, you just nurture it with the sun and whatever. And like Greta said, you just pick something. Like I like yoga, and I like hot yoga. It's not for everybody, but I will go practically every single day because that's what gives me my juice to feel that, a little bit better about my body. And that's where I get stuck sometimes, is in the body. And like when I can work out my issues on the mat and sweat them out with all that heat, it's my way of showing love to myself, and everything looks great then after that. And just love yourself, forgive yourself for whatever things that happened maybe unconsciously through your upbringing, your parents and school and teachers, whatever. There's always things that you feel slighted about something, and be able to like let that go and look at it as a lesson and a way to evolve. It's a process, like you said, Rihanna. I mean, like we can all, if that's what we want. I mean, maybe that's not for everybody, but it is for her and other people out there. There's other ways to express creativity, and even if it is very simple at home, just whatever that you choose to be, just a stay-at-home mom or a teacher or whatever. Nothing is to be discounted. Everything is honored, and love is the answer.
It is. I love the Rihanna story, and you all have to go Google this yourself to see what I'm talking about, because she just didn't start a company. She went back to her roots. She honored her culture. She wouldn't have been able to do that if she didn't get to a deep place of love within herself. Leigh, I want to get to you, Leigh, because here's what I love about what both what Greta said, Yvonne said. I listen to your show, and I have to reflect on this. Every time I listen to your show, I almost feel like I have to take another hour. Like I have to stop. I almost don't schedule anything after your shows because I have to stop. And, because I think I get hit with this. So here's what I want to say. I know the four of us here and people listening, I know they know the possibility of this. But I want to say this, and you can correct me. All y'all can just chime in. The change of my reality for somebody like me, and I would like to know that for you, Leigh, I had to look at my parents' history, being born in this world by a mother that was drinking and using drugs, my own addiction, making a decision that I had to change something. Now, I have to tell you, if I knew what I know now and what we're talking about here, I think that change may have been easier, but maybe not. Have you had to do something similarly? What I'm talking about is we're in a life. I never thought I could change my life. I never thought I would be able to get out of the rut I was in, alcohol, drugs, being homeless, the whole thing. And then one day I did, but don't ask me how. Leigh, how is it for you?
Well, I think it's important to note that, and this is one thing we talked about on one of the podcasts, that, maybe the first act of self-love is just acknowledge that whatever you're creating is okay.
Yep.
To not beat yourself up about what is there, because you know what is there in this moment is changeable if that's what you desire. And if it is not what you desire, that's okay too, because there are, there's wisdom embedded in every situation, right, that we create in our life. And if we choose to go within and try and suss that out, we all wouldn't be who we are today without what we've created for ourselves. So although the path doesn't always seem like a straight line, that self-acceptance, I think, is our first act of unconditional self-love. I'm sorry, I didn't exactly answer your question.
No, you did. You totally did. No? You did. You answered my question. You really did. And you answered it really beautifully, because what you all are sharing here today is, I want to say welcome to the realm, but I'm going to say something different. Welcome to the realm and the world of possibilities. See, that's the underpinning for what I hear you all talk about in your show. But the other thing that I hear, and Leigh, you can touch upon this. The other thing I hear is it magic? Do I get my crystal ball, or do I actually have to do something here?
Well, right. I mean, there is doing involved. I mean, sometimes it's not always a doing, sometimes it's just, dropping in and being present and saying, oh, I was just thinking that. Yeah. And maybe you recognize, maybe that physical act is just recognition that, oh, just right now, I realized that just that thing that I was thinking has been there for quite some time, and it is not serving me. I do not want to keep creating that. So how do I go within and find new material to play?
I love it. See, even vinyl is making a comeback. I want to kind of bring this home, Greta. You should see my vinyl collection. I almost sold it. I want to come back to this and really just, in the minutes we have left, because this is really important to pick up on what you just said, Leigh, and all of you said. And that is the meaning of all, this idea of all. The idea that we still cannot wrap our minds around the fact that we are all connected. There are some cultures, yes. So I don't want to make the global statement, because my table tennis coach was from Ghana, Africa. And I got to meet his mom, and successful businesswoman, right? And he is the most unlikely guy to ever coach a girl like me, just saying. But we did. He became my coach. And I got to understand about himself, and I got to learn things from him that I had never heard before. I'm 22. I had never heard these philosophies, but that's what I want us to talk about now, because we have got to get a very large bullhorn. Right, Greta?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would like just to, if I could say this, and it might be a little deviation a little bit.
Go for it.
But I want to say to everybody that's listening that there is no failure. Because I've listened to people, and I've seen people go into guilt feelings. I did this, or I didn't accomplish this. I had a young man say to me, I think I've wasted my life, because he's experiencing alcoholism that he's leaving behind. I told him, I said, no, you did not waste. There is no waste. There is no failure. We just see it. We perceive it to be failure. Like we compare a person who's in their 3-bedroom home looking at a person who's living out of a cardboard box. How does that person who owns that home perceive the person in the cardboard box? And then I was facilitating for a woman who worked on the Vanderbilt's island, where they have their membership club and everything in Florida. And to buy the condo is $35 million to begin with. So then you compare the $35 million person to the one who's living in the 3-bedroom house and the one who's decided to live on the street. They're all the same. See, we think it's the illusion that we think that we are different, but that is not the case, because each one of us has a lesson. And see, that's what we judge. We want to judge somebody else's lesson. We don't need to judge anybody else's lesson. What we need to do is take care of the lessons that we're supposed to learn and deal with that. That's a lot. Just unto itself, just dealing with us, let alone trying to deal with somebody else. If everybody dealt with themselves, if everybody loved themselves, see, you can't. My daughter said, Mama, she was 8. She said, who do you love the most? I said, myself. She said, you don't love me first? I said, absolutely not. I said, because if I don't love myself, how can I even begin to love you?
Yeah.
So that's the trick. It goes right back to loving self. And when you love yourself, you realize you haven't failed. Because every creation of reality, I don't care what it is, you've been successful at.
Yeah.
Because you created it. You see, you
love
created
this.
that. And you created it. Why? Because you're learning lessons from it. A person who's incarcerated. I'm working with a person now who's been incarcerated for 15 years, sitting in one cell for 15 years. He's successful because that's what he chose to do, to deal with himself, to learn the lesson. You got the lesson. How are you going to deal with it? That's the creation of reality. How? How am I going to learn abandonment? How am I going to learn homelessness? How am I going to learn this? Every one of us chooses something. That's why we don't need to judge anybody. And that's why there's no failure whatsoever.
Okay, I think we're done with the show. Yeah. I think we're done. I mean, I thank you for that. All of us understand what that road looks like, right? Right, ladies? We all know.
Yeah.
I love how we are all in service in what the people on the outside would say are the artist places. I get asked, why do I go to the prisons in Maryville and meet with the women in the prisons? I get asked that question. And you know, my flippant answer, right, Yvonne? My flippant answer is like, why not? Okay, but for them, it would be well, I know what it's like to sit behind bars, albeit a short period of time. You never forget that. You never, ever, ever, ever forget it. But now I know that experience was so that I would learn how to be of service, while other people may see that experience was a failure. How do you, look, Leigh, Yvonne, last comments on what Gretta said. How are you with that failure idea? I love it. I so love, you all come back. We need to do a whole show just on what Gretta said. Gretta, okay? I'm gonna have Linda schedule us because
I thought that was radical the first time it came through in a podcast. And I was like, no failure, because we're all creating exactly what we're creating, whether it's unconscious or conscious. It's still our molded clay. So that was, I felt very radical and very much a statement that could shift many an impression.
Yes. It's all good. It's all good. No judging anything. No judging.
I love it. I love it. You know, here's a thing for you all. There is a signature question I created over 20 years ago. Other people use it. It's, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Now, I have had New Thought people, everybody want me to change and get rid of the word fail. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? But I needed it in there because that is an important question to get at what Gretta just said. And I tried to change it. I had like these top best-selling people come on and say, oh, Dr. Pat, you need to change it. Don't use the word failure. And I'm like, I don't have an issue with the word. But what you just talked about, Greta, there are a lot of people that are feeling less than right now. They have watched their lives change, and they don't know how to not feel like failure. Are you feeling that, Greta, a little bit energy-wise?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Because I've been there and done that. Yeah.
Someday we'll do a group call. And I'll tell you about a seminar I do when we're doing seminars again for business people, sales and marketing, on everything I needed to know about business. I learned selling hot dogs from a hot dog wagon in New York while I was homeless. So someday we'll do a show on that. But I can't thank you enough for you saying yes to this. I cannot thank you enough for what you're doing. And my commitment to all of you and my commitment to our listeners is we are going to do some new reality with the network very soon, because we want people to hear more from you. Greta, tell everybody again how they can find out about the show, about you. And thank you all, Yvonne, Leigh. Thank you all so much for just being you. Greta, how do they get a hold of you? How do they listen to the show?
Shifting Impressions, Fridays, Transformation Talk Radio, that we created to be with Dr. Pat. Because there are a lot of people out there. We didn't go to a lot of people. We came to Dr. Pat. We were brought for us to do this work together.
Yeah.
This is a transformation for people all over the world. Transformation for that. So check us out on Fridays, and call in and, ask us questions. Yeah. So every Friday at
8 a.m.
8 o'clock
Pacific.
Pacific, what is it, 10 o'clock?
Yeah, 11 o'clock
Central.
Eastern, yeah.
Yeah, we go all the way to 11 o'clock. And Leigh, which we didn't say, is sitting in Turkey. So
that's a reality.
Right. So it's in the afternoon here with us at night with Leigh.
Oh, gosh. So Leigh, get you some Turkish coffee. Hello. I think it's banned in the United States. So I'm going to share a secret, and this is how I'm going to end the show. I'm going to share a secret with you three I've never shared with you before. I'm not a person that gets easily intimidated. You gathered that, right?
Right.
I will tell you, totally intimidated. Meeting you all, even working with you all. Totally felt like I was in the presence of something so great. And I had to change this belief that I needed to live up to what you all were creating. Now, I now know today, I'm still a bit intimidated. I'm just going to tell you, but I do know what you're doing in the world is epic. Thank you all. I want to thank all the audience for tuning us in, turning us on. Benny, Jacob, don't forget 8 o'clock Transformation Talk Radio, Facebook.com Transformation Talk Radio, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern. We'll see you next time.